Jim the Ape Want Proof. Hello again, humans. It is I, Jim the Ape, and I haven't made a video in a while for a few reasons, one of which is of course the holidays, which in turn caused a temporary spike in work hours that my body still has not fully recovered from. But the other reason I haven't made a video in a while is best explained by talking about a few different topics unrelated to the main topic of this video, but it's worth digressing because of some trends I've noticed in content creators that I watch and consider to be similar to myself. So one of the things I had recently considered making a video about was the Louis C.K. thing. After all, I'm a longtime fan of his comedy, and I've seen probably most of his major specials, if not all of them. And to be honest, I didn't even think his sexual offense was that bad since he asked permission and didn't touch anyone against their will. So naturally, when some SJW types took offense to his recently leaked set about non-binary snowflakes and school shooting survivors turned public figures of gun control activism, I felt the urge to make a video saying that this was nothing new for him and it resembled most of his other material. But I found it unnecessary for two major reasons. One, pretty much everyone I watch on YouTube had already made videos about it, so there was nothing really new that I could bring to the discussion that others hadn't already covered. And two, the offended social justice warriors don't piss me off as much as they used to, and that's probably because I'm starting to realize just how much paper their tigers are made of. But that doesn't just go for left-wing SJWs. There are some perpetually offended faux outrage mobs on the right as well. Just recently, there was an advertisement made by a manufacturer of men's razors, whom I will not name because I now realize just how shady a publicity stunt they pulled with this. If you've been on Twitter at all in the past few days, or however long it's been by the time this video comes out, you probably already know who it is. Anyway, the ad featured the kind of messaging we've been seeing a lot in the mainstream media lately. It literally mentioned bullying, the Me Too movement, and toxic masculinity in the first 2 seconds of the ad. And it goes on from there to basically say that men need to step up and take responsibility for, and or hold other men accountable for the actions of a few bad ones. Now, some people have tried to argue that this message is innocuous to any good men, and that if you're offended by it, you must be one of the bad men. And while that's arguably true, to a degree, I still disagree with the message of the ad for a few reasons. For one, you know damn well they would never make an ad like that with the genders reversed, telling women they need to hold other women accountable for the bad things that some women do to men and children. So there's some serious double standard hypocrisy going on here. But more importantly, I don't have to do a goddamn thing about the bad behavior of other men because I don't fall into any of the following categories. I'm not a man who abuses women in any way, nor am I withholding information from the authorities about a man who is, nor am I a victim of abuse that is also in the previous category, and nor am I a cop. So if you're wondering why I don't feel the need to white knight for the poor oppressed whammons, it's because of those above criteria not describing me, and it's also because I see women as equally independent human beings to men who can also fight their own battles, both literally and figuratively. So basically, all of that was just build-up to say that while I may have angry tweeted about the ad when I first heard about it, my rage has since subsided as I thought more about it. And for a while, my reaction to it was reduced to just an irritated groan and an eye roll. But then I found out that there were lots of conservative snowflakes on YouTube and other platforms making videos of themselves throwing out or even destroying the razors that they had already paid money for, just to give this evil leftist company the middle finger in a showing of absolutely impotent rage. Naturally, I facepalmed at this stupidity, and then I happened to see a tweet, which I subsequently retweeted, that basically said, "Hey, don't throw away or destroy your razors over this stupid ad. How about you donate them to a homeless shelter since, you know, most of the homeless are men?" And then there came the video that was the final nail in the coffin of me caring about the razor ad. It was by the guys of the Deep Fat Fried podcast, which I genuinely enjoyed despite some major disagreements I've had with some of their recent content, but I might get into that in a later video. Basically, they made a video pointing out out something I already said when I first started talking about this. It's just a marketing ploy. Nothing more, nothing less. Because prior to this, who was talking about this company and their razors? Basically no one. But much like Nike did with their Colin Kaepernick ad, they shot back into the forefront of the public consciousness in a big way by stirring up some controversy with an ad to trigger the conservatards. The same conservatards, mind you, who love to brag about triggering the libtards. But guess what? You're both fucking retards! And people keep falling for this blatant publicity tactic, and the offended side always claims they're gonna boycott the product and never buy it again. But then, some people from the other side buy the product to support the company who made the ad with the political virtue signaling message in it that they like, and not enough people from the offended side stick to their guns, and before you know it, the company in question is making money hand over fist. So despite the fact that I just talked about them in a roundabout kind of way, I'm not going to give the company in question any more outrage to fuel their publicity to profits machine. So anyway, the point is that there are a lot of social media stories that happen lately where I consider covering them in a video, but ultimately decide that it's not worth it because they're almost always blown way out of proportion in terms of how important they actually are. Now that that's out of the way, I can get to the main topic of today's video. I had a few ideas, so I held a poll on my Twitter, which only received 5 votes, but the winning topic was Trump's border wall. And to be honest, I was kind of hoping that one wouldn't win because of how polarized the issue is, but everything is like that nowadays, and besides, what is even the point of this channel if I avoid controversial topics? Here's the thing though, I don't consider myself to be 100% to either side of this issue, but I'm pretty damn close to it, and I'll do my best to explain why in this video. But if you're curious what side I almost completely agree with, it's the side that says it's a stupid fucking idea that's not worth the money it would take to build it, let alone the recurring costs to maintain it. But I had a coworker who argued with me about it, and he said that the wall would be a deterrent for illegal immigration and could therefore save lives. Now, I don't know that I agree with him on that, and I certainly question the degree to which it would be a deterrent for reasons I'll get into in a minute, but I could see where he was coming from, and at least if I recall correctly, I think he made a few good points about it that I can't quite remember. Now, people who are in support of the wall generally argue that illegal immigration is a danger to the whole country, and that we have a border crisis of terrible people crossing over and committing heinous acts of violence day in and day out. And I do recall seeing some footage of people at the border throwing rocks, but I don't know how common it is for people to just cross the border and brutalize American citizens. And quite frankly, I'm not gonna look it up. Now, you could say that's because I'm lazy, and that's probably true, but I prefer to think of it as my skepticism has leveled up so much that I no longer trust even statistical data because of the inherent bias of the people who collected it. So the point is, I don't even know if this is a serious problem, and I damn sure don't think it's more important than the global problem of climate change, but let's assume for the sake of argument that this is a serious issue. What's a wall gonna do to stop it? I mean, don't take my word for it. Trump said it himself.
Never, ever give up. Don't give up. Don't allow it to happen. If there's a concrete wall in front of you, go through it, go over it, go around it, but get to the other side of that wall.
And that basically sums up the ultimate ineffectiveness of walls. No matter how long they are, they eventually end so you can go around them. No matter how tall they are, you can always go over them, especially in an airplane. Unless they're made of some magical indestructible material, you can punch a hole in them and walk through. And if they're built on regular old soil of the earth, you can also dig under them. So whether it would deter some people from illegally crossing or not, those determined enough have plenty of options to get to the other side. Not to mention, most illegal immigrants in this country actually entered legally, but overstayed their visas. And a wall damn sure wouldn't stop that.
But wait! There's more!
After initially promising in his 2016 presidential campaign that he would build the border wall and that Mexico would pay for it, he later changed his tune and said that Mexico would pay us back for the wall after we funded it.
Hang on to your seat, baby, cause this one's a screamer!
And then, when it came time to decide on the federal spending budget, he wouldn't accept anything unless Congress agreed to fund the wall. Congress said no, and the government shut down once again. Now, thousands of government employees are working without pay, and it's all because this retarded toddler trapped in a geriatric body with a dead cat on his head has decided that this stupid, ineffective wall is the hill that he wishes to die defending. Granted, I do not lay the blame for this solely at Trump's feet. Congress could have funded the wall, considering that $5 billion is like a single square of toilet paper to the federal government, in that they literally wipe their ass with that much money. But at the same time, I see some value in refusing to cave in to the ludicrously silly demands of a spoiled child, even if those demands are easily met financially. It's like a little kid who wants a $1 ice cream cone with a ridiculous amount of toppings on it. Sure, you can easily give it to him and not even feel it in the wallet, but if the kid is being a bratty little shit and acting like an entitled asshole, he doesn't deserve that ice cream now, does he? Now, to be fair, my coworker pointed out that the government employees are supposed to be reimbursed, and if for some reason they aren't, they could sue the government and probably win. So, in the long term, they should be okay. But remember, this shit happened around the holidays, which is by far the most financially stressful time of the year. Not to mention the fact that it's been going on for weeks now. So, in the short term, they're really getting fucked over. And that's the real reason I wanted to talk about this. Because I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the government shut down over such a stupid thing, which is in turn fucking hardworking people out of their pay in the short term. And if any of those employees were living paycheck to paycheck, I shudder to think about how they've been affected. And what's even worse is the idea that politics and discourse has degraded so extremely in this country that the only two options were to fund the crybaby-in-chief's completely pointless and utterly retarded border wall, or shut down the government and make the American people suffer the consequences for daring to refuse to cave into the demands of a spoiled child who was born with a silver spoon firmly up his ass, which coincidentally happens to be where his head is currently located. Yeah, in case you can't tell, I'm done defending Trump from all but the most ridiculous and blatantly false criticisms. I tried to give the man a fair shake because he seemed like he maybe was going to disrupt the system, but it turns out he didn't drain the swamp. He bathed in the swamp, drowned in it, became Swamp Thing, and unlike the somewhat heroic DC Comics character whose only goal is to defend the green, he wants to make the swamp even bigger and murkier until we are all drowning in it. I have to say, I agree with that congresswoman. Impeach this motherfucker! And that's about all I have to say on the matter. There's probably a lot of things I missed, so feel free to add to the discussion in the comments section. Which reminds me, I've been meaning to say in a video that I actually do read all of the comments, with the rare exception of a sprawling screed with a negative tone, but I don't get much of that these days. Anyway, I mention that because I'm absolutely terrible at actually responding to comments. Usually I just read them and react briefly in the moment with a yep, or an I agree, or a cool, and then just move on with my day without committing that reaction to keystrokes on the internet. But perhaps in the new year, I'll resolve to do better with that and interact with my fans more. Hell, maybe I'll even do some live streams. Might even make a gaming channel or just stream games on this channel. I do have a gaming PC now after all, but that's all just ideas for the future. For now, I think it's finally time to end this video. So if you liked this rambling nonsense, please give it a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down. I really don't care. If you like my content in general, please make sure you're subscribed and click the bell icon to get notified whenever I'm motivated enough to actually put out a new video. Follow me on Twitter and BitChute so that you can take part in the next I'm Too Indecisive to Choose a Video Topic on My Own poll, and so that you can see my videos several hours early because I upload them to the latter as soon as they're done. And last but not least, if you really like my content, please consider supporting it on Patreon. Yes, I know Patreon's been a bit of a bad platform lately for banning Sargon and whatnot, but I'm too lazy to look for an alternative at the moment. Any amount you can spare would be greatly appreciated. As always, thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time. Stay great, apes.